Hey, what's going on? Keith here from Sports Vibes TV, coming at you live here this Sunday afternoon, joined as always by my co-host, Stephen Fox. Foxy, how's everything with you?
All is well. Salute to you. Salute to the chat. Salute to the SV Nation. Wait to talk about New York Knicks and NBA basketball. Training camp opens this week. Hallelujah. How are you, my friend?
Doing pretty good. Here to talk some Knicks, have some fun, talk about some of the recent events that transpired on Friday. Also, after we finish with the stream, I'm going to go get ready and watch some more House of the Dragons. So I'm excited for that as well.
Good. I know you enjoy it.
Yes. Solid show so far. They got a time skip coming. Let's jump into the chat. Give a salute to everybody that's tuned in. John Talento, thank you, one of our mods. We appreciate the support. Geraldine MacGyver, thank you for tuning in. Who else do we have? Kaiser Soze, salute. Thank you, man, for tuning in. For the love of the game, thank you as well for tuning in. Foxy, anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, like you just said, for the love of the game, both Hardwell and Worldwide L, hope all is well. DBR, hope all is well. Even best, like you said, Lex the Destroyer. We're going to be chopping it up with the SV Nation all show. Can't wait.
So like I said, we got a lot of things to get into. And the first one, as we were trying to prepare and get our information together to discuss it, these guys got waived already. So we were trying to, get on the live stream, talk to you about not Quentin Rose, but talk to you about Garrison Brooks and Nuni Omot. And Foxy, you're telling me that while we were getting prepared, Cats just reported that they both got cut?
Yeah, I know. And it was funny because Quentin Rose was cut just as fast as these two dudes. So as we said in last stream, that is their bodies for training camp. But I feel badly for him. I was saying that MJ Walker got signed, and the Knicks or the MSG graphics department put out a graphic and everything. And I'm sure his family rejoiced. And the very next day they cut him. So my heart goes out to these guys who waited. So these guys are gone. They're going to the G League, but they're gone, basically.
Yeah, it looks like there'll be options out to the G League via the Exhibit 10 clause in their contract. So I think they'll still have a job. It's not like there'll be free agents out there, even though they could be scooped up by other teams, I believe. But at least they got their little, 15 minutes of fame?
Seconds.
Oh man, but with that being said, let's jump into the nitty gritty, what we came here to discuss, and that's the fact that Leon Rose finally addressed the fans. Now, some members of the media are a little bit upset because he didn't address the media directly, but he did get on camera and he had a few words to say about the team. So before we do a deep dive into what he actually had to say, Foxy, I just wanted to know what were some of your thoughts, in general of the conversation with Leon Rose, as they titled it.
I spent a long time in corporate America, and it just felt like a corporate speech. It was propaganda. Everything is swell, and I know he was going to say something positive. The funniest thing was when Hans asked him if there was any tampering. Yeah, what do you think he's going to say? Absolutely.
Right?
yeah, there was tampering, all right. But his last stretch of where he spoke to the fans, I thought that was terrible. I was like, didn't you rehearse or have somebody write this for you? But he is who he is, and that's the way they roll. So they said all the proper things, and in a controlled environment, and so that's the type of responses I was expecting in that environment.
Yeah, New York Knicks PR got to do better, because it's like the two pieces that they decided to promo were the ones where Leon Rose probably looked his worst and sounded his worst. Because I think if you look at the middle of that conversation, I think he didn't sound terrible. I had some mixed emotions, but the starting script talking about he's not allowed to talk about other players on other teams, to me that was clearly scripted. And then the message to the Knicks fans, it seemed like that was scripted as well. So those were the two clips that the Knicks PR decided to promo with. So I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it actually ended up being. So me personally, I went in there not expecting much, and there were some things that I liked from him when he was getting into the players and some of the things he mentioned. But there were some areas where he kind of talked about other players or coaches on this squad that kind of made me wince a little bit. But we'll jump right into one of the first things Leon Rose had to say. And here, this is the conversation or the question about Donovan Mitchell. Leon Rose said, "We went through the process of trying to trade for Donovan Mitchell, and at the end of the day, we made a decision to stay put. By not making a move, we are flush with draft capital, which is great currency in the market and something that will help us get better as we move forward." Now, this is true. We didn't get Donovan Mitchell. And if you looked at some of the trades or some of the requests that Danny Ainge and the Utah Jazz were making, I'm extremely happy we didn't make the deal because they were trying to get a boatload of picks and also RJ Barrett. So this is something you expected to hear Leon Rose say. Even though the deal didn't go through, he's completely happy with what we have on the roster as is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy also with the trade. I mentioned the stat last week that Kemba led the team last year with charges, with Alec Burks second, with one had like 24 and one had 23, and Brunson was seventh in the league with 44. And I just laughed to myself. Donovan Mitchell only had 12 charges all last season. So you're telling me a one-leg, 30-some-odd-year-old Kemba was willing to put his body on the line more than a 20-some-odd Donovan Mitchell. So I'm glad. And he's right. The only thing that he could say in here is like, hey, we had a line in the sand. We didn't want to go beyond that, and we didn't go beyond that, and we're still flush with all these draft assets. So, it's a bright future for us.
And Leon Rose even got exactly into how many draft assets we have. He was discussing it with Han, and he said we have 21 draft picks in the next 7 years, 11 first round and 10 second round, which were maintained by not trading for Mitchell. But we're thrilled with where we are. Taking a look at the summer, we feel great about what transpired. Now, that's true. We do have 21 draft picks, but we could have had more if we didn't have to include a pick to get rid of Kimba's contract. So we do have some draft capital. If we do have another player that's available, I think this team is still in a good position to go out there and make a deal. We just have to make sure that we're not going to get beat over the head like Danny Ainge tried to do, because RJ Barrett in any trade discussion should be untradeable. Poison pill or not, I think he's a player that's going to be key to this team moving forward. And if we have to include a little extra draft capital instead of including RJ Barrett, I think that's what we should do, because I think RJ Barrett, from what we've seen, could be on, a star player trajectory. So in order to take another gamble in the draft, I think that would be misguided. So Foxy, when you heard Leon Rose get into some of our draft capital and the fact that he's thrilled with where we are, what did you think?
I thought he was right. I thought it was a touch misleading. As we know, a lot of those draft picks are protected. So whether the Pistons like year's top 18, Washington, so it's not like we have a draft pick that's unprotected and like, man, they're going to suck and we're going to have a top 3 pick on that. But they are first-round picks. And so I'd rather have 11 first-round picks over the next 7 years. That gives you a lot of leverage. And as we found out last year, we're trying to get Jaden Ivey. It's very difficult if we're, as Vegas says, in the 12th or so position this year, trying to move up. But hopefully there's a solid enough draft that if we do make that choice, we can. But Keith's the thing in SV Nation that keeps coming into my head as we go over this, and we'll get into a little later the roster and stuff like that. It's a solid roster. It really is. That I'm starting to feel that, as long as the kids get development, like you just said, RJ, one of the league sources this week, this last couple of days made a comment that RJ is going to go to another level because of Jalen. He's going to put him in a lot better spots. So I'm thinking in the next couple of years that, just like Toronto of a few years ago, they had a damn good team, but they just needed one player, that being Kawhi, to push him to the next level. I think we may be in that in the next couple of years. Get rid of D Rose's contract, get rid of Fournier's contract, do a couple other things, free up for that one other player, but let's keep our core, let these kids develop. And we're tight. I feel very confident. Hey, we keep it real at SV TV, and but I think the future. I think there's hope. I really do.
You and me both, Foxy. Just want to give a shout out to a couple people in chat. D. Burr says they'll wait to see how this team does, and if it all goes well, we'll see a trade deadline move. Yeah, hopefully this team will be biased at the trade deadline. We just mentioned we have the draft capital to go out there and make a move mid-season, and if we're biased, that means we're in a solid position halfway through the season, and we're in playoff contention. Because, as we know, teams that are selling off typically are looking at their prospects of getting into the playoffs and feel like they really don't have that great of a chance. So if we get to the trade deadline, this team is playing solid. Can at least head into that situation knowing that if there's a player that's available and we need him in order to get us over that hill, then we have the draft capital in order to do so, and we also have the players, I believe, in order to do so.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way. I'm just hoping that early in the season that a lot of the players, and we'll get into whether the Cams and the young core, we know RJ is going to get burned. It's just the other guys. Somebody's going to be unhappy. That's the bottom line. And so I was hoping prior to training camp, whether, Fournier, we owe him $37 million over the next 2 years. And so, to bench Fournier, it's a lot easier to, 18 million this year, a touch under 19 next year. It's very difficult, and I know D Rose during the interview talked about autonomy, but they spent, we owe 37 million. Do you think they're going to really let him be on the bench? I hope so. I want the other guys to get more burn over Fournier and him coming in if we're just not hitting and stuff. But I'd like him to be, an off the bench option.
Yeah, hopefully that's what ends up happening. I think some of the things we heard from Leon Rose, I think it might end up happening, honestly, and some of the reports that have come out about how Thibs feels about players like Quentin Grimes and things like that. So I think if this team enters, training camp and everybody has a clean slate, like, Leon Rose said, it's Thibs' mantra, then I think that the young guys should be able to beat out Evan Fournier and then force Thibs to put Evan Fournier in a position or a role that he's better suited for. Now, Foxy, any rebuttal before we get into the next slide?
No, I think he captured it perfectly.
All right, so we mentioned his name a few times, and that's going to be RJ Barrett. He's a player that also was brought up during the interview, and this is what Leon Rose had to say about him. He said, one of our main goals has been to create internal stability. We signed RJ Barrett for 4 years, $170 million, $107 million, I apologize. Our first rookie extension of a player since Charlie Ward. RJ's numbers are in the company of Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Kevin Durant. They're the only players that by the age of 22, they were able to score 3,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 300 assists. Now, it's always funny seeing people come to the media and talk about a player that they almost traded. So I like a lot of the things that Leon Rose is saying, but it would have hit harder if it didn't come after the fact that we missed out on Donovan Mitchell, in which RJ Barrett was the key to the deal. So, Foxy, when you heard some of these things, what crossed your mind?
Politicians, it's like, and don't forget about what I said a few weeks ago. He's our guy, RJ. So they're all political. You take what they say with a grain of salt. Yeah, and you just hope. But like you said, RJ, he's focused. He's got a great guy with Jalen and the others. Time to rock and roll. Tuesday opens up camp and let's rock. And if he was up, hey, that's a compliment. If I was RJ, I was asked, I was going to be traded for a superstar and I wasn't. So it'd be a lot better. I'd rather say I was in trade talks for a superstar than for a mid-level player, So, hey, it's the way it is in the NBA, or any sport. It's the sports business. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, I'm excited we didn't pull the trigger. Like I said, I'm all in on RJ and him potentially becoming a star player. It's going to fall down now to the front office and Leon Rose to continuing to build around him, and for Tom Thibodeau to put him in the right position to succeed. And we're going to get a lot of answers to that question come training camp. Are we going to see RJ get moved from the 3, which he was playing primarily last season, down back to the 2? Or are we going to see him continue to be a 3 in this league and go up against, a lot bigger and, at times stronger players at that 3 position? So to me, that's going to be one of the main things I'm going to be looking at when training camp starts.
Me too. And the biggest thing for me is going to be Thibs. Has he been able to change? And the biggest thing is what we've been talking about. If he really wants to take advantage of this roster, he's going to have to go to a 12-man rotation. And that's the first thing you, me, and the SV Nation will be looking at. How many players are in his rotation? If he goes to a tight 10, somebody's going to be on the out looking in.
Yeah, so hopefully Thibs gets it together. And, we're going to get into it a little bit, but some of the things Leon Rose had to say about Thibs kind of gave me some chills down my spine. I was like, oh, I don't like the way that sounded. So let's see. Let's move forward with the slides. All right, so here we go with Leon and his thoughts on Mitchell Robinson. He said, we retained Mitchell Robinson for 4 years, $60 million. He's a player who has developed over the last few years, and we feel very fortunate that we were able to keep him. He's a very talented player, an elite rim protector, plus a monster on the offensive glass. He's had some setbacks, but has worked through them, and he's healthy now. We can't wait to see him. So the fact that Mitchell Robinson is healthy and he's and Leon Rose is vouching for him, I think that's a great sign. We've seen Mitchell Robinson try to work on some things this offseason with his free throw shooting, with his jump shots. Jumper. He's been working on that as well. So hopefully these are some signs of maturity from Mitchell Robinson, who now has gotten, life-changing money, and we continue to see him in the gym working on his game. So I think that's a positive, and that's something that, we should give Mitchell Robinson some kudos for. Hopefully he's able to debut that jump shot at some point. I think we've only seen him take 2 in his career. Maybe if he's able to, add that into his repertoire a little bit more, I think it'll definitely help with the team and our spacing out there on the court.
Yeah, I just want the young man to stay healthy, have another year of, a couple of nagging injuries here or there, but nothing catastrophic. And, hey, you and I were really, we didn't play any games. We said that we thought they paid a little overpaid for him. We thought that about $12 million worth, that we thought that the contract that Robert Williams, Time Lord, got in Boston was right in tune with what Mitch should have gotten. And he got $12 million more than Robert Williams. But also, as we talked about a few weeks ago, Mitchell was before RJ in the initial talks. Mitchell was one of the people that was discussed. In the minute they said, no, let's sign Mitchell. And then they did the same thing with RJ. All right, let's sign RJ now. So, hey, I'm looking forward to Mitchell. We'll see. It'll be interesting, as we said, with iHeart, having that competition behind him. How he's going to do. But, hey, I agree all the way that he's talented, an elite rim protector, and he is an elite offensive rebounder. And you and I said, we don't care if he doesn't hit, but take the shot. It keeps him honest. So I'd love him just to take shots. And after a while, they'll start going in. But you have to take them. You can't do it if you don't take them.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Mitchell Robinson is going to look with the addition of Jalen Brunson. Ever since I started the channel, I've been saying we need a point guard that can help us maximize the production we're getting from Mitchell Robinson at that center position. So even if he's unable to build his own offensive skill set or repertoire, at least we have a point guard that's making life easy for him and keeping him involved, so that way he's engaged when he's setting screens, he's engaged defensively, and things of that nature. So with Jalen Brunson here, hopefully Jalen Brunson can continue his development, because remember, he's young as well. So if we have this young core of guys around the player like Mitchell Robinson, RJ Barrett in that starting lineup, me, fingers crossed, I'm hoping Cam hopefully gets elevated into that starting lineup. I think you start to see players that can help make Mitchell Robinson's job a lot easier, whether that be being better perimeter defenders or being players that can find him for easy buckets around the basket. So that's what, those are some of the things I'm going to be keeping my eye on to see how has the offense changed with Jalen Brunson as the addition at point guard, and how does that affect Mitchell Robinson and his development here with the New York Knicks.
It's a win-win. Last week, folks, we showed the shot chart of Brunson, and he's not only elite of getting to the rim, he's elite at finishing at the rim. And if they drop off, then he's elite. He'll be elite at getting a dunk for, a Mitch or anybody else, maybe a cutter on this team. I know I said the word cutter. Oh, wow. But, between RJ and Brunson, I think Mitch will have a big smile on his face. And I also think He's not coming in heavy or trying to lose weight during the season. I think he's going to be at the weight that he wanted to. He's been working out. He has the money in the bank. His head should be in a good place and just rock and roll. And let's see, he averaged 25 minutes last season. Let's see if he does a little more. But I love having iHeart here to push him.
Nice little safety blanket as well. Him and Jericho Sims, so we'll get into as well. As of right now, we currently have 112 in chat. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure you smash that like button. We only have 24 likes, so do me a favor, smash that like button. It helps us with the algorithm and it helps us grow the show and grow the channel. Foxy, anybody you want to give a shout out in chat?
Sherwin, hope all is well with you and your family. Westchester legend, Dwayne Dennis, East Blue Drew, EBD, UBG, how are you? Hope all is well. And it's funny, you just brought up Jericho. Some good news, folks. I saw him working out, and he had the thing off his left hand, whether it was a cast, whether it was a wrap or whatever it was off that left hand. And I went, oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. So he's ready to bang, I think, starting Tuesday.
Salute to Kaiser Soze 718. He says, I think if the offense can't improve this season, Thibs has to take the blame. That's a fact. That's a fact.
We were 22nd last year.
We have the pieces now. We have Jalen Brunson. We have a point guard. We have RJ Barrett, another year of development. We have hopefully a Julius Randle, who we'll talk about it a little bit later, who's, I guess, re-engaged and has checked back in with the team and is no longer, having these lapses out there where he's, losing his mind or anything like that. And, hopefully Mitchell Robinson, a year removed from that Jones fracture, is probably going to be a better version of himself as well. So this offense should be a lot better than we've seen than we saw last season. And if it's not, Thibs being the head coach, he's definitely going to be held responsible.
Yeah, and plus, as we talked about, Showtime, that second team is going to rock and roll. So I think, and we brought up a couple of weeks ago as just using as a model for us is, Jalen Brunson's old Dallas team. They were, 15th in the league in offense and, top 5, I think, in defense. Approximately top 5, and that's a nice focus for us. Come down from 22nd in the league, get a better offense. Let's be a top 15 or so offense and be a top 5 or so defense. That's New York basketball.
I hear you on that, Foxy. Well, let's move ahead in the interview process. Well, in the interview process, in the conversation with Leon Rose and see what else he had to say. All right, so this is him discussing Jalen Brunson. He says, we've got the number 1 point guard in free agency this summer in Jalen Brunson for 4 years, $104 million. So we really feel good about the summer. He fills one of the biggest voids that we had, a starting point guard that is such an important role on our team. We needed that person that was going to stabilize us. And I hope that's what Jalen Brunson is when he does come here, when he does finally take the court, is be a stabilizing force and give us some consistency at that position, because that's something we've been searching for years, if not decades. So for Jalen Brunson to step in and be someone that is not only going to be a stopgap option, but a player that we see for, as being one of the leaders on this team for the foreseeable future. So I'm excited to see what Jalen Brunson is going to do out there. And, another thing I like that Leon Rose said is he doesn't want, Jalen Brunson to be anybody other than Jalen Brunson. And I think that's very important when you're playing in a market like New York City. If you try to be someone that you're not, I think fans and the media are going to find that out. And it's going to make life a lot more difficult. So if you can be comfortable in who you are and, not worry about what's going on outside of that locker room, I think it's going to put him in a great position to excel out there on the court. So Foxy, anything that you picked up that Leon Rose said during the interview about Jalen Brunson?
You could see in his eyes, he's really fond of the young man. He knows him from this high, and he's just saw him grow. He knows his dad. He knows his dad was tough on him. So he knows a tough coach like Thibs is not going to be something. And he also knows, like you just said, that he's really secure with who he is. He's not going to try to come Broadway, and he's not going to all of a sudden walk around with dark sunglasses. He just really is. And when he gets on the court, time for work, man. He don't play. And I think he absolutely I brought up the D Rose thing. He's a quiet leader. Not all leaders have to scream and be animated, but he'll be animated. I think so. And it also bothers me. It's like, man, the Knicks missed out on Donovan Mitchell. Man, what the hell did they do? We had that was a huge signing, folks. That was a really big signing. Us getting Jalen Brunson. And one after the other, people said he's going to make the Knicks better. We're keeping it realistic. We're not going to be, go for the championship maybe, but we're going to be a much better team. And it's a process. And, RJ, and it's a confidence thing too. RJ gets a confidence level, takes everybody. The mental game in sports is huge. You got to, once you think you can do it, and sometimes you need a little help. So you brought up Mitch, RJ, some of the other guys, a guy like Jalen, even though he's young, he's mature beyond his years. And I think it was a phenomenal acquisition. And I think, if I was Leon, I'd have a twinkle in my eye talking about him too, because it's about culture. And that's the type of guy that you want to bring. And like I said, 7th in the league last year in charges, 2nd in the league in charges in the playoffs. When it's on the line, he's putting his body on the line. That's what you want, man. That's the type of player that you want. It's going to be diving for loose balls. That's going to be executing the play on the board, not freelancing in the middle of the play. I can't wait. I'm really excited about Jalen.
I want to jump into the chat real quick. D. Burr says, with Brunson, Randall has no excuses making turnovers anymore. Less dribbling and more off-ball movement to get the rock where he wants it. And that's a fact. I think that's another big key to Jalen Brunson's addition to the New York Knicks, is hopefully going to make life a lot easier for Julius Randle as well. We haven't made it a secret here on the channel, but we would prefer if the Knicks were to move on from Julius Randle, but that hasn't happened, and we need Julius Randle to be the best version of himself, and hopefully the addition of Jalen Brunson is going to lead us to that, because I think Julius Randle, even though he had his struggles last season, is still a very talented basketball player. So if Jalen Brunson is able to make life easier for him, and we see a Julius Randle version a lot closer to the Julius Randle we saw 2 years ago, then I think this New York Knicks is not only going to be a sneaky good team, but it's going to be an extremely dangerous team. But we just need Julius Randle to kind of buy in and allow Jalen Brunson to run the squad, and make sure that, and understand that Jalen Brunson is going to be looking out for him and trying to get him the ball in his spots, and he doesn't have to try and force the issue.
Yeah. Hey, we've been consistent. We had issues with his attitude, Julius, but he's a spectacular player, man. Out of 4, he does things, and everybody has seen he's shredded. He's in great shape, but he looks smooth. Hitting jumpers, running back and forth. So having a Jalen and things like that, hopefully he's had a come to Jesus moment that, like you said, he's going to be Randall. He's going to be who he is. He's not going to try to take a team on his back. He's just going to do what he needs to do to help this team win. And I love having a Jalen, a guy that if he's not in the spot he's supposed to be on the, he's going to look him off. We had the guys in the past that he's 20 feet away from his spot, but they still gave him the ball. And Jalen's going to look at him and say, no, bro, you got to continue your rotation. And when you get to your spot, I'll get you the ball, or this possession, I'm going somewhere else. And that, that's a good discipline where, it's behavioral modification. If you don't do what I want you to do, you ain't getting the ball. And when you do get the ball, you'll be getting it in the spot that's optimal for you and the best for this team.
Facts, Foxy. We got a super chat from Parrish Ducker. He says, we have a solid 12 B and C level players, so we need a deep roster. Attrition, foul trouble, injuries, poor play will solve the playing time. Stay put. And I think that is true. We are a team that are going to beat teams because we have the depth, and other teams are going to find it hard to match us. When that bench unit goes onto the court, I expect them to outplay the other team's bench night in and night out, because we have some killers coming off the bench, whether it's going to be Cam or Grimes. We know Quick is most likely coming off the bench. It seems like Obi is entrenched to a bench position. So with those guys coming off the bench, I know that those guys can either build on a lead or, eat into a deficit or build a lead themselves. So this team, the depth is definitely going to be one of our strengths. And I think that's why this team is going to be dangerous. I mean, we may not have a dynamic duo right now, or a proven dynamic duo. But I think this team 1 through 12 can match up with a lot of other teams 1 through 12.
Yeah. Hey, we brought up the Memphis team last year that was 21-6 without Ja, Tyus Jones. They played tight, tough defense, played smart basketball, set screens, played really good basketball with good coaching. Hey, let's just emulate that and go from there.
So Leon Rose, he had some more things to say about Jalen Brunson. He says Brunson has a winning DNA. When you look at his history, he won the state championship in high school. He won 2 national championships in college, and last year, with and without Luka Doncic, he led the Mavericks to the Western Conference Finals. He has improved every year because of who he is and what he's about, the character, the work ethic, and the professionalism. So that is something that we can also add to Jalen Brunson, the fact that he's coming in with and he's already used to a winning culture. So hopefully he can step into that locker room and see certain things and say, all right, fellas, I know I'm new here, but this is not the way things should be done. And then that's that type of veteran leadership that I think this team should be looking to bring in, not only based on how many years they played in the league, but where they've played in the league. Have they had success, and do they know what a winning brand of basketball looks like? So the addition of Jalen Brunson, even though he's not a 10-year veteran in the league, he is someone that has, been in winning environments at all levels of the game, and is someone that is going to assume a leadership role in this locker room.
Yeah, and we're Madison Square Garden, those lights, the fans, the media. I don't think it'll have any impact on him, and that's great. And like you said, from high school to college, 2 national championship, Villanova tough. Love this guy. I love this guy and his professionalism. And that's, you see somebody working out like that, it becomes contagious, man. Like you're like, yo, look at that guy. He's in here before I get here and he's here after I get here. I got to do that to get me a contract or a play like that. And, if the guy says something, you listen, it's the E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen. It'll be when Jalen Brunson speaks, people listen. And I like that. I don't think he's a guy that's always talking shit. Some guys just, you don't know what to take serious or not because they just talk all the time. And I like people that are a few words. So when they do say something, you just listen. And I think Jalen's going to be that way, man. He's, he just got engaged. So shout out to him. And with his high school sweetheart, he's really a down to earth guy, man. I don't know him obviously, but everything I've heard about him, he's just well grounded. He's a good young man. RJ's a good young man. IQ, Obi, the list goes on. That's a good way to build a team. Guys that are based on good and not selfishness.
Remember 2 seasons ago when we heard about guys, staying late in the gym, showing up early for workouts? We heard Quick talk about, Thibs would see him there early. We heard RJ staying after practice, putting up shots. Hopefully with the addition of Jalen Brunson, we start to hear some more of those stories, especially when you look at, Jalen Brunson and his work ethic and the work he's put in order to be at this position. So hopefully we get back to some more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And watching film is everything. So we know IQ is always watching film. And I said to you that I and the SV Nation, I think one of the people that's going to be impacted most is Miles McBride. And I doubt he'll get any burn at all this season, but just osmosis, because he's a 6'1" guard. Seeing a guy whose handle, meaning Brunson, is so phenomenal that for him to go to the next level, meaning Deuce, I have to have that hezzy type of dribble. I have to have that handle for me to go to the next level. And even if it's not with the Knicks, I have to, he's going to be a really, really good person to watch, and obviously D Rose, and we don't know how much burn he'll get, but that's a really good place for IQ and Deuce to watch to get better at. And too bad Rokas is not here to have some of that surprising. Did you notice he didn't mention Rokas during the interview, Leon Rose?
I don't think we'll ever see Rokas. Rokas is just as good as those draft picks. Trade bait at this point.
Yeah, I know, but I thought he'd be promoting him maybe, but
Well, I guess it would have been a poor taste to show up at the interview and say, hey, yeah, we got Rokas. He's a tantalizing trade piece. All right, so let's move forward along in the interview. And this is when he brings up iHeart. He says, we feel that we've got another great player, another great piece with Isaiah Hartenstein. He's a versatile big, and he gives us something different than Jericho and Mitchell in that he can step out and shoot the ball and is more of a stretch big. He's a skilled passer who plays with a passion and energy. And that's a big addition to this team. The fact that, iHeart can kind of play a different role at that center position from a Mitchell Robinson and a Jericho Sims, while also being great at protecting the rim and, defending shots in the paint. So iHeart, it's going to be interesting to see that center dynamic. Do we see some nights where iHeart might play a little bit more than a Mitchell Robinson based on matchups? Or is iHeart going to be relegated to a role where he's, playing 15 to 18 minutes a night?
Yeah, like I said, I think the matchup, one of my favorite comments is, and if you're in the first or second row, you better watch out. This dude's a mad dog. He'll be diving all over the court. So he may be running into you if you're in the first row or second row. That's what we love as New York Knicks fans, is somebody that does that. Hey, folks, he's very, very, he's sneaky athletic. The thing that also threw me off is I heard Hartenstein, and Leon Rose during the interview called him Hartenstein.
Right.
So I was like, so I'm waiting for the first interview with Hartenstein or iHeart. It's a lot easier for us just to say iHeart, man. What's your name? Even, Leon's calling you Steen. Everybody's calling you Stein. I'll just call you iHeart and get over it.
Exactly, right. Because I heard it and I'm like, have I been saying it wrong this whole time? Exactly. That's why I stick with iHeart and call it a day.
Yeah. We have a super chat.
Oh. Let me pull it up. Oh, thank you to Hamish for the $10 super chat. He didn't send a message, but in place of it, we'll give him a round of applause as a thank you.
Yeah, the roadcaster.
Yes, sir. So we appreciate the super chat. Thank you for your support. Let's see what else we have. So yeah,
just real quick, a shout out to Del Chapman and Keyshawn and Perfecto Sambula and Pudge Nice. Lemmy Live, we appreciate everything. I don't know if my friend Anthony R is, just wanted to give a shout out to him and his wonderful wife Danette. They have their own channel called Danette and Anthony. It's real cool, really a lovely New York couple, pure New York. They travel around New York, going to different eateries and different places, and I just enjoy their company. So if you're listening, here's a shout out. And again, it's Danette and Anthony, wonderful channel, really good people.
They've got to send me some brunch recommendations.
Yeah, they go all over. They were at Cats a couple of weeks ago. They were at City Island last night, eating some really good fried clams and calamari that look really good. But they're all over the place: Brooklyn, Queens, Connecticut, a New Haven pizza. So I love stuff that you can tell. I love food, and they're just really down to earth people, man. So shout out to my friends Danette and Anthony.
Yes, salute to them. So now we're gonna get into the part of the interview that kind of started making me a little bit nervous. And that's when Leon Rose had this to say. There is no edict that the young players get minutes. Ruh-oh. Also had this to say, Thibs is the coach and he decides who plays, how many minutes, and what the rotations are. And the one thing I know about Thibs is he makes decisions based on who will help us win. Now, honestly, that was really the only thing Leon Rose could say, because if he came here and said, there's a proclamation that Leon Rose has to play the kids, we might say, yeah, that's great. But at the end of the day, that's kind of dysfunctional, because he's right. It's up to the coach to decide who's going to play and what the rotations are. That's why you hired him. And if you don't have faith in him making those decisions, then at the end of the day, you should just fire him and not make these type of statements that this is who has to play and who doesn't play. If that's the case, you bring in a coach, you interview a coach who's like-minded, and you allow them to make the decisions. But just to hear it, I'm just like, oh man, here we go again. But Leon Rose also said that Thibs has said that every training camp is a clean slate and people earn their minutes off of that. So if he's true to his word, it's going to be up to the kids to beat out some of these older players that, aren't long for this team.
Yeah, you know, and I were a goof. You know me, I'm a goof. So when we first heard this, the first thing I said to Keith, he has autonomy until he loses 7 games in a row, and then there's an edict saying he loses 7 games in a row. Play the kids or stop playing that person. But that's the only thing he could say. It's the right thing to support your coach, and like we said, hopefully an old dog can learn some new tricks, and he'll have a different rotation and he'll do things differently that that upset the Knicks fandom.
Yeah, one thing I didn't like too is when Han had asked him about Cam. What role does Cam have on the Knicks? Like the first thing he said was, first, let's say this about Cam, and then he praised him and all that, and then it went to commercial. And when it came back from commercial, they completely changed the topic. You never answered the question, bro. What's the role? What's Cam's role? And I know we're talking about the GM shouldn't be setting minutes or playing time and all that, but you could say RJ Barrett is a foundational piece. Well, can we hear something about Cam? Do you see Cam as a long-term piece on this team? That's what I was trying to hear. I didn't have to hear Cam is going to be a starter per se, or Cam is going to get extended minutes. But I wanted to know was what is Cam's role on this team long term? Do you see him as as a prospect that we're trying to develop and make better and potentially be that starting three alongside RJ Barrett? Or is he just another trade piece like those, first and second round picks? And he really didn't make that clear.
Yeah, I am a huge person for body language. And I don't know if you noticed or the SV Nation noticed, but when he asked that question, he took like a deep breath for a second. I would think he would know because it's such a closed thing that he'd know every question that's coming from Han before he asked it. But even so, there was an element where he paused for that second before he gave an answer, and they cut to the break. But he looked very uncomfortable with the question.
Yeah, something behind the scenes tells me that he knows Thibs doesn't like him, even though the front office thinks Cam could be a special player. I think that's what the basis of it is, or the crux of the issue.
Yeah, and maybe we shouldn't have traded a first-round pick and everything if Thibs felt that way, but we've talked about the disconnect on that player. And Cam, unfortunately, is a young man, and he's playing 20-some-odd minutes with Atlanta, and he comes here not to play anything like that. 14 minutes he averaged last year, and before he got hurt. But, that was an awkward moment. But the truth came out that he doesn't know, and he's saying a Hail Mary that he could work out in training camp. Hopefully the reports are Cam has looked phenomenal, in working out this past summer, and he's coming to the camp knowing that this is contract year. Whether it's here or somebody else, I'm going to ball out. And we've talked about it. If you're going to ball out, it's going to start on the defensive end.
Yeah, and he did have some more to say about Cam, talking about Cam, quote unquote, requesting a trade. Remember, there was a rumor. Who mentioned it? Berman, I think, in a Berman article, had said that Cam would like to see a trade happen where he can go somewhere else where he'll get a little bit more playing time. But we saw Cam himself on his own birthday at that kind of dispel some of the rumors. So Leon Rose mentioned it. He said Cam and his representatives asking for a trade wasn't true, and he put out a tweet saying he didn't know what they were talking about. And I think it wasn't a tweet, it was a Instagram comment. And also speaking about some of the young guys in regards to Grimes, Obi, and Cam, he said they have put in hours and hours in the gym over the summer working with the coaches, and they look great. I'm looking forward to seeing what transpires. And we have some of that workout footage here on the channel, so make sure you check it out after the live stream. And all of the guys have been putting work. It was funny because I think there was a Sunday before we were talking about Cam, and we haven't really seen any workout footage, even though we're seeing workout footage from these other players. And boom, like 3 days after that, we saw footage from Cam.
I thought the same thing.
Right? Yeah, right. So I got something for you. Boom, whole lot. So, the young guys have been putting the work in. We've seen Grimes. He's working on trying to create off the dribble, continuing to build off of the performance we saw in Summer League, where he was given a little bit more of a workload in terms of playmaking and things like that. So I'm excited to see how Grimes looks to start the season, to see if he's continued to add to that offensive repertoire. And also Obi, Obi, the last time we saw him, Obi looked phenomenal. He was hitting his 3-point shots at almost like a 40% clip towards the end of the season.
Post All-Star, man. Yeah, he rocked.
So I'm excited to see how he looks. So When he mentioned some of these young guys, right after he talked about Thibs not having an edict as to who has to play and who doesn't have to play, what were some of your thoughts?
Um, he, like I said, that was the political, that was the corporate side. That he's just going to say the right thing. He's not going to say anything controversial. He put his faith behind Tibbs' judgment, and that the guys are looking great, and Tibbs is going to determine the players and the rotations and what's best for this team. But is Cam going to get minutes, Leon? Commercial break. So hey, it's on Tibbs. We'll see, folks. We're hoping, like we said, a 2-3 of RJ and Cam is what we've been waiting for. A real 6'8", 7-foot plus wingspan who has that disruptive on D, smooth getting to the hole. Let him finally realize that potential. And I think it's a smart move. Go with Cam, and if it doesn't work out, then ship him out by the trade deadline. But for you to play around with a couple of minutes here and 14 here, that's not doing anyone good.
It doesn't develop him as a player, and all you do is devalue him. I saw someone mention, I believe it was John Talento. He says if we trade Cam, he wants at least a first back. If we're only playing Cam 12 to 14 minutes per game, no team is going to want to trade us. Or we won't be able to recoup that first round pick in the deal, because they'll say, one, we're going to have to pay Cam at the end of the season, and two, you're not even showing us what he can do, so it might be too risky to give you that much. So they definitely have to play him at the start of the season, just so we can make a decision by the trade deadline. Also, I want to give a shout out to Adele Chapman. We have a super chat. He says Leon wasn't comfortable with the tampering. LOL. He didn't seem comfortable the entire conversation, quote unquote. I think that's why he really doesn't do it live. And with the media, he might not feel too comfortable fielding some of the more difficult questions. And that's why he always gets interviewed by an employee. Nobody's going to disrespect their boss or press their boss in front of millions watching.
Yeah, I would think that in his role, he would be a little more comfortable talking in front of the camera. But like you said, he seems pretty awkward speaking like that. I guess, and also one of the things he said during the negotiations, he took exception to that. Han brought up that, a lot of people saying there's a whole lot of people in the front office, they're like confused, and he said, I don't agree with that at all. But then he says, that I'm used to working all those things, negotiation and everything else. But you didn't do that with Donovan. So if that was what you did, Leon, you didn't do it in this case. And you brought up all these names, but, this is basketball. You gotta have, you can't run a corporation. You can run a corporation, run it like a corporation in some ways, but when it comes to basketball, you have to have a basketball person making basketball decisions, not a corporate person making basketball decisions. So, one thing is knowing of the game as an agent. Another thing is knowing the game as a real inside guy who played it or who just lived it. So,
yeah, that's why I'm not shocked that Leon Rose isn't too comfortable speaking in front of the cameras, because he's an agent. He's more behind the scenes dealings and things like that. So, for me, it's not that big of a deal that he doesn't speak to the media, and he does those, I guess, conversation. I don't even know what to call it, honestly. It's not a press conference. It feels weird to just call it a conversation for whatever meeting he decided to put out there. Me, I'm not too turned off by it. I mean, I can see why some of the media do get upset, because they do have a job to do. And, being able to field some of the tough questions is what garners a lot of clicks for their sites and their respective newspapers. But honestly, as long as he's answering some of the questions that we want to hear, and he doesn't, tiptoe through too many of them, then you can live with it. Like Thibs not having an edict, don't like it, but at least we know, it's out there. We understand that Thibs is the one calling the shots when it comes to the playing time and things like that. So that I'm cool with.
Yeah. But he also didn't say that he's not putting out an edict, but doesn't say Scott Perry can't put out an edict, one of the people that he delegates to. So I didn't put out an edict, but I guess one of my people did. But hey, we'll see. We'll see. But that's the beauty of having, the one person they got, Jalen Brunson's a coach on the court. So I think it's going to help everybody else that kept using the word stabilize, and I think it was rightly so. That if we can stabilize, we can do the best we can do with this roster, and I think it's a sound roster. Yeah, we're missing superstars, but I think we play great defense. We play New York basketball. We play smart, execute set screens, cuts, everything else. That in a couple of years we'll be primed for getting that other piece of whether free agency or trade, or getting that one piece that'll bring us to the next level.
I wonder what Perry does, because I thought he was the one that does all the negotiating and things like that. That he was the one that has the conversations with other GMs and things like that. So with the addition of Rosas and him handling the Donovan Mitchell negotiations, where did that leave Scott Perry? I feel like he must feel stepped on. No.
Absolutely, folks. If you go to Google and you do a search on NBA general manager, it comes back with the definition is that an NBA general manager negotiates contracts for NBA players, and basically he's head of the roster. And his name, we heard Rosas, we heard all these other things, but the one name you didn't hear prevalent in the talks was Scott Perry, and that's throughout the thing, whether signings and stuff like that, he thought he would be front and center as the general manager. So, and really haven't heard a thing. Another super chat.
Yep. Salute to Adele Chapman. He says, do other organizations lock the media out like the New York Knicks? I'm not 100% sure. I don't really cover other teams' media to know exactly what their protocols are. But maybe it is different with the New York Knicks. But I know for me personally, as a fan, it doesn't change anything for me. So that's the media's beef. They can bring that up with James Dolan. But me, as long as I get the information I need to drop my videos, I'm cool.
Yeah, Adele, I would say they're the same as the Knicks. One thing I've learned about working with powerful people, they like controlling the narrative. And whether you own the cable stations or other things, they have ways of doing that. So whether making sure, it'll be interesting, folks. Tomorrow's media day. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting. The questions that we've all been waiting to be asked, they may be asked tomorrow. So RJ may be asked about, what Keith brought up earlier. How do you feel about being dangled earlier in the year for the Donovan trade? So it's going to be interesting whether, Randall, you lost your cool last year. Are you going to be cool this year? So certain questions that were like, oh, like you said, you're wincing, but, is somebody going to really ask that? They made sure it was never asked. Tomorrow, you don't know if it is, if they're going to be able to control that, if it's truly a media day. So it'll be interesting, but hey, I don't want any negativity. Let these guys ball out in training camp. And hey, we'll know. October 4th is a blink away, our first exhibition game. And we should have a flavor of the rotations by then, man.
Yeah. Plus, it's not like the media is really locked out per se. They'll have an opportunity to ask their questions. They just have to wait a little bit longer than they would have liked. All right. Weird. So let's get into another portion of the interview. And this one is talking about Julius Randle. So he started off by saying Randle is in phenomenal shape and in a great space. Emphasis on in a great space, because we cannot say the same thing last year. And is really excited about getting started this year. Last year, he had elite numbers, 20-10-5, and only 3 players in the league were able to achieve that. Julius is a passionate player, and I see that as a positive. Did he have some rough patches last year? Yes, but Julius has learned, and I hope what he's saying is true when it comes to Julius has learned, because if this team is going to be, a sneaky good, dangerous team, especially in a tougher Eastern Conference, Julius Randle is going to have to step it up. If he's going to do the 20-10-5, we don't need it at shooting 40% from the field and 30% from 3 or whatever the numbers were last season. We need him to be more efficient, and that all-star season that we saw him in, he came into that season in phenomenal shape. That was one of the main things Tom Thibodeau was saying in training camp. Julius Randle came in phenomenal shape. It was great to see how he looked and things of that nature. So if that is going to be something that we'll see again this year, I think it's a good omen. He's coming in phenomenal shape. He's putting up 3-pointers. I just dropped a short. Make sure you guys check that out, of him working on his 3-point shot. I believe he went 5 of 5, and it wasn't at the same spot. He shot from both corners, and then he shot from up close to the top of the 3-point line. So he looks smooth. He looks smooth. He's putting the work in. I hope he doesn't too many of those floaters we saw, because that was brutal. But if he can continue,
did you see RJ's floaters too?
they need to leave the floaters to Quick and D Rose. All right.
Yeah, I was about to say a bird drop out of the sky.
But we just need Randall to be to buy into the team, and not buy into him being the guy. And I think we'll be fine.
Yeah. Hey, folks, that middle blurb I think is really important. And shout out to our friend Sherwin in the chat. Sherwin is right that he is a really, really good player. Only 3 players in the league were 20, 10, and 5. So we get on Randall, but sometimes, we can't lose sight of how good of a basketball player he is, that he's his biggest enemy. If he can keep that under control, and hopefully with the other guys there, and maybe he goes to the next level in his career of maturity. They had the kid last year and all these other things that could, maybe threw off his thing. Hopefully he's a little chill. He's got his money in, that he can ball out. And only 3 other players did that. So if you can harness that talent, it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the play he's blocking in an Obi Toppin, and if Thibs isn't going to make the change and start Obi, then we need Julius Randle to be the best version of himself, whether that be to justify not giving Obi extended run, or it's to better his trade value so we can make a move at the trade deadline. So I don't know if I would say I'm excited, but I'm kind of anxious to see what version of Julius Randle we see come training camp and come game 1, because we saw what he was able to do 2 seasons ago, which was on one end of the spectrum, and we saw what he was able to do last season, which was on another completely different end of the spectrum. So I don't know what type of Julius Randle we're going to see. You would hope it's closer to the one that we saw 2 seasons ago. But, even in, the offseason Pro-Am game, there was some things that I didn't like that would make me say, okay, he's kind of learned. Even though Leon Rose says, quote unquote, Julius has learned, I really haven't seen that from the last time, I saw him out there on the court with refs out there. He was still looking like a loose cannon kind of. So remains to be seen.
I not only think my gut's telling me, I think he's going to be better. I think he's going to be better. I don't know about he'll be second team all NBA level better, but I think he'll be in the vicinity. The one thing I love about Julius, whether his head's right or not, is 20-10-5 is there almost every time. He's an elite defensive rebounder. So we have an elite offensive rebounder in Mitch, and he's an elite defensive rebounder. And some of the problems, I think Jalen's going to take him out of that situation. We have 4 seconds on the clock. Get the ball to Jalen. Don't get the ball into Randall for ISO. I think a lot of situations could be alleviated where problems created, and his stress level went created because they gave him the ball and said, take the team on your back. And that's not who Julius is. We've talked about for a while that he's a fine player, but on a great team, he's a third option. We had him as a first option because we weren't a great team. Now as this team matures and RJ's game comes under, and the addition of Jalen and everything, hopefully his maturity is that, hey, I'm getting paid. I'm getting my numbers in that vicinity, and he was the 18th on defensive rating. It's just the thing. He was the 18th best defender. We saw lots of plays where he took off, but if he's motivated to play, he's a damn good player, man. And that's why I think he's still here. That I'm sure they could have got rid of him on a penny on the dollar, but they're like, no, man, he's too good of a player to give away. We got equity is one thing, but we're not giving away a player of this. If we can get his head right, and I think we can get his head right, it'd be a crime to get rid of him. He's our best player.
Yeah, well, hopefully that changes. We would hope Jalen Brunson would step up and become the best player on the team, or even RJ Barrett would become the best player on the team. But he'd be a solid, like you said, number 2 or number 3. I think one thing I want to see is how he looks out there on the court with iHeart. I've mentioned it on previous streams that when they talk to Julius Randle, they say he kind of moves further away from the basket when he's with a big man that's parked under the paint a lot of the times, and he's paired a lot with Mitchell Robinson and even last season we really didn't have too many bigs that could really stretch, the court outside of Taj Gibson. And even that was something that was fairly new to his game. So now with the addition of iHeart, I want to see if that is going to allow Julius Randle to now get closer to the basket, get some easier looks, and up that field goal percentage. Because if Julius Randle is able to score 20 points, shooting terribly, imagine what he's able to do when he's a lot more efficient and, the ball's actually moving and not sticking when he's getting the ball 20, 22 feet from the basket and trying to get to his spot. So with the addition of iHeart and with the addition of maybe even a guy like a Quentin Grimes, added to the starting lineup to help with some more floor spacing, we could see Julius Randle excel, starting from game one. So that's my hope. How confident am I in it? I'm still on the fence, man. I got to see it to believe it. After seeing him move from one end to another end in two different seasons, I just really don't know which version we're getting. Remember last season we used to call him Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Which version will we see starting game one? Because we're going to need him to ball out. First 10, 15 games are brutal. So we're going to learn a lot about this team in that first stretch. A lot of things are going to be decided by game 15. I bet you that.
Yeah, I agree. When we were in the lab and going through the numbers during his second team All NBA season, he took a lot more twos than he did threes. It was a better mix for him, and I hope he reverts back to that. You just saw in the highlights, folks, him taking jumpers up by that foul line and stuff like that. So I'm interested. Hey, we were not, even though pick and roll was an important part of our offense, we were not efficient at running it. So I'm really excited to see the impact that Jalen's going to have on that, on the pick and, in the right situations, man. I'd love them to be a pick and pop killer or roll, seem to roll more to the thing. Like you said, not only Randall with a smile on his face, like saying there's not Mitch is not in the paint with with congestion. RJ too, them having an open lane and just having their defender to go against. Wow, that changes everything. So it's exciting.
Yeah, you talked about us not being efficient in the pick and roll. It's crazy because I think one of the most, if not the most efficient player in the pick and roll as the ball handler on the team was Quick. And they refused to start Quick at point guard, which was beyond me. But, we're not going to cry over spilled milk. That's last season. We'll keep it in the past.
Hopefully it's not this season.
Yeah, and speaking about point guards, Leon Rose had something to say about Derrick Rose. He said, Derrick Rose was the heart and soul of our playoff team 2 years ago, and we missed him dearly last year. We're excited about getting him back, and he's down to his rookie playing weight. He's walking around with no shirt on, letting everyone know that he's back. Rose is back. Back again. Rose is back. Tell a friend. Rose is back. Rose is back. So Derrick Rose is back. He's back at his playing weight.
My dog is barking again. Wait a minute. What's going on here, folks?
Oh, man. Yeah. I had to. I apologize. Hope nobody left the stream. All right. So, yeah, Derrick Rose is back. I know some people were kind of on the fence as to whether or not Derrick Rose should return or we should move him to another team to kind of free up some playing time. But with him being on the squad and Leon Rose sounding like he'll be someone that'll be here for the entirety of the season, or at least up until the trade deadline, unless we turn into sellers, how is that going to affect the rotation? Because we expected Derrick Rose either to be moved. We know Thibs is not going to bench him. So now that's going to throw a wrench into Emmanuel Quickley and potentially Quentin Grimes playing time. So, this news about Derrick Rose, the way Leon Rose spoke about Derrick Rose, and the fact that there's no edict for Tom Thibodeau, it makes me believe we're going to see, I won't say a heavy dose of Derrick Rose, but Derrick Rose isn't going to, Emmanuel Quickley or any other player isn't going to cut into Derrick Rose time. It's going to be vice versa.
Yeah, from a future looking forward, he won't be here next year. So are you going to give up minutes for a guy like a Quick's development in order for one last hurrah for D Rose? And for the younger viewers out there, D Rose is a really special player when he was young. And, the last couple of years it's been hard to watch him. But if there's one last thing with him, and like we've talked about, the good thing, one of the great things that a lot of people don't talk about with Jalen Brunson is he does something that we can't count on Thibs to do, and that's minutes management. Because he averaged 32 minutes last year with Luka, and I don't think he's going to play a minute less than 32 minutes at the point guard position, Jalen. So beautifully, 16 minutes is a sweet spot for a guy of his age and his injury history. So if he does choose to play him over an IQ, it's going to have, I think, long-term development issues. But if you're trying to win, an 85% Derrick Rose at his age is still better than 90 some odd percent of other players. He's that damn good. And you saw later in his career, last couple of years, he's hitting the three.
Yeah.
So, he could create his own shot. And that's one of the big why we missed him badly. And he brought that up, how badly we missed him last year. Shot creation.
Yeah, my thing is, though, I just need to see him out there on the court because he's dealt with a lot of lower body injuries. So, we started to see some of that speed and quickness start to leave from him. How much is he going to have as he returns? I know he's cut down on weight in order to try to save some of the athleticism he does still have, but we haven't seen him in what, almost a year, right? I don't know. I don't remember the date he went down exactly, but it's been a while since we've seen Derrick Rose. So I can't make any assumptions as to how good he'll be when he returns. But one thing I can say is regardless of how he plays out there on the court, we know he's going to be a plus in the locker room period because a lot of the guys, they gravitate to him. And, they really put a lot of value in some of the things that he says, and he's really embraced becoming a mentor. So I know behind the scenes, Derrick Rose is going to be a plus. It just remains to be seen how good he'll look out there on the court. And will Tom Thibodeau be able to make some of those difficult decisions if we do see Derrick Rose out there on the court and he's not the Derrick Rose we've seen previously, and there does have to be changes in the minutes? Will Tom Thibodeau be true to his word and kind of reduce some of Derrick Rose's playing time?
Yeah, our good friend Parrish Duggar, again, thank you for your generosity. I think he brought it up earlier that injuries happen in the NBA. People pull hammies and stuff like that. And if that does happen to a Jalen, unfortunately, or an IQ or something like that, they get nicked up. Having a D Rose as an insurance policy is really, really good. And, so we'll see what'll happen. One of my first thoughts a couple of weeks ago when I heard that Lonzo is going to be out, is having another knee surgery. Bring Derek home to Chicago and that'll free up so we don't even have to have this conversation. We're doing him right, bringing him home to Chicago, and maybe we'll get, some assets, not another player. We don't need any other players, and let our young guys play. But he's a class act. I only want the best for D Rose.
Foxy, it was funny. You said Derrick Rose as an insurance policy is a great option, but I'm like, well, you kind of need an insurance policy for the insurance policy. Derrick Rose is the insurance policy. You know what I mean?
I'm the insurance policy that has an insurance policy on my ankle and everything. Yeah, but if, like we said, it's if hopefully he can hang out for 10 to 16 minutes a game. That he's still, that would be a safe area where he wouldn't cross the line. The problem was Thibs ran him into the ground, man. He came from Detroit. He was he went to the Fountain of Youth and he played phenomenal, but he had nothing left, man. And I don't know the damage, I think it took a year off his career because of the minutes that he played. But having Jalen, if we didn't have Jalen and we had IQ, he'd be playing D Rose 20 some odd minutes again, folks. And then he'd be having those issues. So, he's good to have around, and hopefully we don't need to have that insurance policy, that the guys are durable.
Right. All right. So, and also I saw a super chat. Evan Best says we need to take a chance on McBride. Yeah, I don't see McBride getting any minutes with Derrick Rose on this team, Emmanuel Quickly on this team. I just don't see the minutes for a Deuce McBride. And I know it must be frustrating for him because he's going to be spending a lot of time with the Westchester Knicks. Hopefully they'll be in Westchester so I can go see them a little easier. But, Sucks for him, but hopefully, like you said, he's got a guy like Jalen Brunson he can learn from. Derrick Rose, these are guys that even though he's not playing, he can kind of, learn things by watching and kind of getting become a student of the game and kind of understand things a little bit better.
Yeah, he's got to work on his handle.
Yes.
He doesn't, because of his issues with athleticism, he needs that handle for separation to get his shot off and do other things. So that's what he has to work on. And, even if he got minutes, I think it would expose some of the issues he still has.
Yeah, work on his handle and some of his footwork as well.
And his footwork.
And he can pick that up from Jalen Brunson.
Yep.
All right, let's see what else our president of the New York Knicks had to say. Excuse me. All right, it says, make no mistake about it. At the end of the day, I will deliberate, I will analyze, and I will make the decision. It's on me. Depth is our strength. We're going to play the right way. We're going to play hard. We're going to play smart, and we're going to play fast. Now, we're saying all the right things. Depth is our strength. That's something we've been saying since we figured out what this roster was going to look like. We don't have necessarily that elite, top 10, top 25 player in the NBA at the moment. But we have, some great players either off the bench or even in our starting lineup that I think can go toe to toe with a lot of other teams in the league. And, the first quote is from the decision-making process when Alan Hahn asked him, how do you delegate who's in charge of what? And the funny part is he mentioned a whole bunch of names. I'm like, wow, there's so many people involved in the deliberation process. But I was like, okay. What I loved was the fact that he said at the end of the day, it comes down to me. So as long as you know that even though you're delegating and you're having other people, maybe do the task for you, at the end of the day, you're the one that's responsible. And as long as you understand that, that's how you want to run your ship, you're allowed to do so, and we'll see what the results are. So Foxy, when he started talking about, the way the organization is run and, this team's depth, what were some of the things that you thought?
I agree with depth. I think we have a really deep team. It's just void of a superstar, but it's the foundation of a really good, strong team. So the only thing I laughed at was that we're going to be playing fast. We were 29th in pace last year. So
and that was entering a season where he had pace on the whiteboard. That was one of the things we were supposed to be focusing on, pace.
Yeah, so we'll see with Jalen that I don't really see in us. Second team I do, but I don't know about our first team lighting it up as a fast break or a team with playing fast. But hey, playing smart, playing hard, that's all we ask. And as the boss, you have to say, hey, the buck stops here. I'm the guy, it's on me.
Yep. And the fact that he said that and it's on whack, so if anything goes awry, we can point to it like, hey, brother, man, Rosas went off the wagon, but you said it comes back to you. So it is what it is. Salute to Evan Best.
And he also said it was the third year, so it's 3 years now. So now it's time to deliver.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, we want to get into a fun little portion of the show. We're going to move on from the Leon Rose interview, and we're going to jump into some of the rotations that we think might end up happening throughout the season. Go ahead. You want to say something, Foxy?
Yeah, I was just going to say, folks, we have 169 in the chat. We have 62 likes. We talk, we ask your help that with YouTube that you get us to that 100 metric on likes. So please do us a solid, hit that like. If you have subscribed, thank you so much. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. As we say, it's the one-stop shop for all Knicks news, rumors, and analysis. Please share the link on your favorite social media platforms. Shout out to the replay gang. If you can't catch it live, we love answering all your questions and comments. We love chopping it up with you. And as always, shout out to the best mods on the planet, Justin L. Hope all is well with the little one, Lex the Destroyer, Adele Chapman, again with Avery, Julian Blum, Canal Ben Lawyer, John Talento, the one and only John Talento, Jesco, the Wrench Mob. We appreciate all you do.
Yep. And before we jump into the next segment, Francesco Gio says, who takes the last shot? I would say whoever's open, but Jalen Brunson will have the ball, and he'll be the one making the decision.
And he's a damn good foul shooter.
That too.
Yeah, shout out to Bodega Wi-Fi, too. I want to say hi to my friend.
Salute to Bodega Wi-Fi. So with that being said, let's jump right into some of the minute distributions that we might see coming into this season. So we'll put it up on screen. You can see here we have Jalen Brunson at the point guard, playing 32 minutes. We have Quentin Grimes at shooting guard playing 24 minutes. RJ Barrett at small forward playing 32 minutes. We've got Julius Randle playing 32 minutes at power forward, and then we have Mitch at center playing right around 25 minutes is what he averaged last year. Now backing up Jalen Brunson, we have Derrick Rose who'll be averaging around 16 minutes per game. We have Quick who'll be playing 24 minutes. Evan Fournier playing about 8 minutes. Obi playing 16, and then Ihart backing up Mitch at the center position, playing 18 minutes. And then Deuce, Keels, and Farron Hunt will be DMPs. And you'll also see Cam Reddish get about 8 minutes, and you'll see Jericho Sims get about 5 minutes. Now, this is a 12-man rotation, but I could very easily see Thibs be a little bit stubborn and go with a strict 9 to 10-man rotation. And that's when you'll see people like Evan Fournier get a bump in his minutes. He might go to about 16 to maybe even 20 minutes per game. And you might see some of, Jericho Sims' minutes be distributed with, Julius Randle to keep him out there a little bit longer. So, Foxy, you look at this rotation. What are some of the things that you would say would be a pro, and what are some things that would be cons with this minutes distribution?
Yeah, hey folks, we're going to show you a couple of different flavors of minutes distribution because we'll get a sense by the first preseason game where Thibs heads at. But we wanted to give you a different flavor so we can get your feedback. But if D Rose, if Thibs shows his hand, as Keith perfectly said, that he's never been a guy for 12-man rotations in his past. Even though Golden State, and we've seen teams be highly successful, even if it's a few minutes for development purposes, and we love to have a 12-man, if Thibs is Thibs, it's going to be more like a 10-man rotation, and he loves his vets. So one of the flavors we wanted to give is that, hey, that D Rose is going to be playing that, and he talked about in the past he loves that lineup of the chemistry of D Rose, IQ, and Obi on that second team. So throw in Ihart and whether it's Evan or Cam there, it's happening. But the thing that we let off with is somebody's not going to be happy. So somebody's going to be on the out looking in terms of minutes. In this case, it's Cam. That Grimes is in that starting lineup getting the 24. RJ's at the 3 rather than at the 2. So those are the things, and Fournier, we're paying him 18. As we said earlier, we owe him $37 million over the next 2 years, $18 million this year. So do we want to bench completely or give just a couple of minutes? But just a couple of minutes to Evan throws off Cam. It throws off the development of other guys. So this was one of the flavors, but it's a nice lineup. Some guys are not going to be happy, but obviously I want Cam to have a lot more minutes than this. But this is one of the looks that potentially could happen. I don't know if it's realistic again with Thibs' history, but with the lineup that we have, it could happen. And a D Rose, IQ, Obi, and Ihart, that'd be an exciting, regardless who plays the 3. And we know Grimes brings good D, and if he hits that 3 and shows some of the development, getting to the hole and some middies and a few others in his passing, that's a nice solid. It's a solid lineup.
Also, one thing that I think Pudge Nice did point out was Leon didn't mention Fournier once. I don't recall him mention Fournier's name at all. So maybe his time is limited here as well.
Yeah, shout out Pudge. Great observation. Yeah, I did not hear him mention him once, but I definitely know that he knows he owes him $37 million on the back of his mind.
Right. Now this is the rotation that I vouch for. You've got Jalen Brunson starting at point guard. You've got RJ at the 2, Cam at the 3, Julius Randle at the 4, and then Mitchell Robinson at the center position, and then you've got RJ spending some time at the 3, and you've got Evan splitting some time as well there as well. As you can see, Grimes, he's coming off the bench to spell RJ Barrett. You've also got Quick spending some time both at point guard and shooting guard. And I think this is a nice mix and match of some of the guys that can play multiple positions. So that way everybody's not entrenched at either the one or the two or so on and so forth. So you see how if Thibs wants to be creative with his rotations, he has the ability to do so. And he can give some of the young players minutes. You would like to see Grimes get a little bit more minutes than 14, but that can vary game to game based on who's playing better and things of that nature. But I think the way this is set up, I think this would be a very modern way to try and, use your rotations and actually get the most out of, depth. Leon Rose said it himself. The one of the best assets of this team is our depth. We don't get any benefit from our depth if we're only playing a 9-man rotation. So something like this is what I would like to see Thibs do this season.
Yeah, I like this lineup too. We have a couple after this. Next one I may like maybe a little more, but because it looks to the future. But like you said, this is taking advantage of the depth. Grimes is the odd man out with only 14 minutes. But you could see, like you mentioned, RJ is getting his 32 minutes between the 2 and 3. Jalen has the 32. Randall has the 32. But it's still a 12-man rotation. And is that really realistic with Thibs? But one thing I'm so glad that it illustrates, like Leon said and you just said, Keith, that it's a deep roster, man. It's a nice problem to have, but I'd like them to maybe make some other moves. But SV Nation, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, let us know. Well, at the end, we'll ask which one they prefer between 1, 2, 3, and 4. We'll put up a poll. All right, let's see. So now, looking at the third setup, you're going to see we have Jalen Brunson still at point guard, RJ at shooting guard, Cam at small forward, Randall at power forward, and Mitch at center, but we've adjusted some of the minutes. We've got Grimes getting more minutes at the 2 with 24 minutes now as opposed to the 14 we saw on the last slide. And we've got iHeart getting about 21 minutes, and we're not seeing anything from Rose, Keels, Farron, and Sims. So, Foxy, this is the one you said you would have preferred a little bit better?
Cam got 30 minutes. Like I said, for us to really, our first line guys, 30 minutes, 32 for Jalen, RJ between the 2 and 3, 32 minutes, 30 for Cam, 32 for Randall, 27 for Mitch. So we're, that's more in Thibs' thing, playing his players like that. So having them entrench, really building up their chemistry, making that change and just saying, hey, D Rose, we love you. If an injury happens, like Parrish brought up earlier, we have you there, but we can't take those minutes away from IQ. And even so, he's only getting 16. So here, IQ's the odd man out, only getting 16 minutes. But, it just illustrates, so when Cam has his 30 minutes and takes some time off, RJ's playing the 3. So, and 10 minutes for Evan with that $18 million contract, that may be a sweet spot that he comes in for 10 minutes a game with that 3-point shot of his. And, we're not having him out on the court too long for his defense to get exposed, and he lights it up. But we're still at the issues of, Obi only getting 16. But Sims, we like Sims, but there should be elements where, matchup he plays. But this is, I think, maybe more realistic with Thibs' history. What do you think?
The only issue I might have is I don't know if Thibs would be willing to play Evan only 10 minutes per game. I think Thibs is going to try and find a way to get Evan his 20 to 24 minutes a game, even if he's not starting. That would be the only thing. This, for me, would be a great lineup for him to use. But if I was just to say what would Thibs be most likely to do, he'd probably try to find a way to bump Evan's minutes a little bit. But me personally, I'd be fine with it. You mentioned Quick only getting 16. That's someplace, you try to have him get a little bit more minutes. But we just have a glut of young guys. So I think in a rotation like this, you might not see, a boatload of minutes instantly, but you would have to just make sure that you're prepared. God forbid there's an injury. At least these guys aren't coming off the bench cold and trying to be thrust into a situation where they have to try and give big minutes. So I think this would be a great setup for Thibs to use. He just has to be, willing enough to allow some of these young guys to take the reins.
Yeah, and if he does play Evan, that's the whole weird thing about this. When Keith and I behind the scenes were putting these things together for you folks, that if Everin gets the minutes that Keith just brought up, the 20 minutes in that range, it's absolutely, Grimes, other guys are going to get hit. So it's that thing. And, I kept bringing it up, but statistic last year per 100 possessions, which is a game approximately, there was 6.7 points better with him off the court than on the court, meaning Evan Fournier. So I don't know if that, if they're more enthralled with him breaking the New York Knicks 3-point record, or they're scared about that defense, but they're still paying him $37 million. So I think he's going to get burned, and I think your points, but that's why I was hoping that there was some change before Tuesday, that we wouldn't have to have somebody, their development being hurt, whether an IQ or Grimes, because they're giving those minutes to an Evan.
Yeah. Also, Foxy, I saw somewhere in the chat, somewhere mentioned that with this starting lineup, there wouldn't be enough shooting. And I think that we would have, decent enough shooting in this starting lineup. You have Jalen Brunson. What did he shoot from three last season? What was it, around 37% from three? If I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
RJ.
Well, he was league average basically from non-corner threes, and he was an assassin
from the corner.
So over 40% from the corner, but averaging it out, like Keith just said, he was around 37%.
So 37% from three for Jalen. RJ Barrett, he's a season removed away from shooting 40% from three. And Cam Reddish, it's a small sample size, but he did shoot 40% from three during his short stint with the New York Knicks. So you would just hope that Cam can continue to build upon that, solid shooting performance he had when he was, healthy, and that RJ can find his way back to that 40% shooting stroke that we saw that he can do. And, Jalen Brunson, he's a player that can knock down the three. So I think you have enough shooting. Julius Randle, he's been working on his 3-point shot. His stroke has looked good. Once again, I said I uploaded the short. Everything looks good in terms of his form and his shooting mechanics. He just has to be able to now knock down that shot when there's fans in the stadium. And then with Mitch, it is what it is. You're not expecting Mitch to go out there and shoot threes. So, you just have to expect the spacing to come from the other four guys out there on the court with him. So, I don't think shooting will be as big of an issue as some people may think. And I think we'll have enough shooting with this starting lineup.
Yeah, and folks, there's a huge difference between shooting a three and shooting an open three. And that's why, again, Jalen Brunson is huge. Him getting to the basket, them converging and kicking it out for somebody getting an open look, it's a lot better. So whether it's a Cam, whether it's an RJ, etc., I think they can have better looks. So, and shout out to my friend JJ in the chat. Hope all is well. He said Brunson didn't shoot many threes. And I don't know whether his mix, when you're it's a lot higher percentage. He's like we talked, an elite 2-point shooter, which is a higher percentage shot, shooting 10 feet from the basket than 30 feet. But he is an assassin from that corner. And we talked about 2 years ago, Randall was the number one in the league in assists for corner threes. So getting Randall involved in that, kicking it out and other things, so I think that. But you know what? If they don't, it's nice. We talked about earlier streams that once they got rid of Burks, we had concerns about shooting. It's nice to have, if they're not hitting it, then having Evan on the bench coming in, but put those guys in the position that hit the three where you're going to lose time to Evan.
Yeah, and I'm already seeing in the chat, we've got people starting to make some clamorings for starting iHeart. That'll be an interesting dynamic throughout the season to see if iHeart can, put some fire to the feet of Mitchell Robinson. I don't think it's likely, seeing that they gave Mitchell Robinson that type of contract, but iHeart does have a skill set that I think falls in line better with players like Randall, RJ, and even Cam.
Yeah. He has unbelievable stats, iHeart. I just hope people don't get blinded by them. He's an aggressive player, and he has had a history getting in foul trouble. So I'm hoping that, he's been a career backup guy. So we'll see, from his stretch standpoint, he didn't, his numbers are kind of misleading. He's shooting 46%. It's just like JJ brought up, it wasn't much of a sample. So that number there, but he can stretch it. But you know what? I hope iHeart puts all the pressure in the world on Mitch, because if it doesn't take Mitch to the next level, then, we'll see. Maybe Mitch will be shipped out at the trade deadline. You never know, because he'll be able to be traded for starting the middle of January, which is right before the trade deadline.
Yeah, you know what they say about pressure. It makes diamonds.
Yo.
Also,
super chat from our guy Parrish.
Yeah, I thought I did see that. All right. So Parrish Duggar, thank you for the super chat. He says Brunson is over 50% on corner threes. Yeah, like we said, he's a great corner 3-point shooter. He was able to knock it down at a high clip. And I think that's going to be a shot that's going to be available for him here on the New York Knicks. So hopefully he can shoot somewhere around that percentage here with the squad. Foxy?
Yeah, Adele asked, how's Hart's defense? Statistically, he's an unbelievable rim protector. He's really up there with the top. So sometimes statistics, when you're going against second team guys, you're not getting real run against first team guys. But I think everybody said it, and even Alan Hahn mentioned it, that around the league, everybody said, you know what, everybody's talking about Brunson. That's a phenomenal pickup. But don't sleep on that pickup of Ihart. That was a great, and look at his salary. You and I looking at this league, it's a wing-based league. He's getting around $9 million, a little less than that, but I'll round it off, meaning Ihart around $9 million. That's a sweet spot for, I think, fives going forward. I don't know how many, Mitch better enjoy that money. I don't know going forward how many fives are going to be getting that money unless they stretch the floor.
Yeah, look at Robert Williams. He got paid, and now
for 48,
and he's dealing with injuries too. He might not be ready to start the season.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not the first time with him. And that's the issue with big guys. Big guys get hurt, man. They're banging on the rebounds, on pick and rolls, and they're setting screens. That's physical, man. And, people is like basketball's not physical, never played basketball.
Exactly. It's not a physical sport. Says who?
Yeah, people who never played.
Right. If there's something called a foul, if you can hit me and it's called a foul, then that means there's some physical contact, right?
Exactly. But you know what? I'm glad you said that. Last year, I want hard fouls. You got 6 fouls. I want them to leave marks. I'm serious, man. That and going around screens and stuff. I want black and blue marks, man. I want somebody saying, I want to go under, and go under, and then I'm going to, light you up. But I don't want any of these tic-tac fouls. This is New York, man. You don't like it? I'll see you afterwards. We can dance, but tough.
Yeah. Speaking of hard fouls and screens, they just released a little trailer for the Redeem Team autobiography or documentary, whatever you want to call it. And they were talking about how Kobe ran right through Pau Gasol, who was trying to set a screen. He's like, hey, I don't care if you're my teammate. At the end of the day, today, you're an op and you're going to feel me. And he ran right through him, and it pretty much set the tone. So hopefully we have some players like that on this squad that can kind of set the tone, not be dirty or anything like that. We're not saying to hurt anybody, but we need somebody that can set the tone and allow and let other teams know that this is not a team that you're going to have an easy run with. When you're coming, either it's a away game or a home game, it's not going to be easy. So we definitely need some rough and tumble guys on this squad that can stand up.
We saw things over the last year or so about losing at home that we thought we'd never see. Having Thibs talk about lack of energy. You never want to hear those type of post-conference discussions about energy again. We got to play. Hey, I'm a guy that Mace and Oakley. That's the way I play basketball and stuff like that. And we haven't had, Randall, quote unquote, is our enforcer, and he's not really that type of enforcer, man. I want us to play New York basketball.
Facts. So let's jump into the fourth rotation. And this one, again, we have the same starting five this time, with RJ getting 24 minutes at the 2, RJ getting 8 minutes backing up Cam at the 3. And then we have Quick with the same 16 minutes, Grimes getting 24 minutes, backing up RJ at the 2. You've got Obi now getting a bump in minutes to 24 minutes, which reduces Julius Randle's minutes to 24. And then we see Julius Randle getting some minutes at center as well. So this would be a situation where we could see some small ball opportunities with Julius Randle and Obi Toppin out there on the court together. Now, Foxy, how likely do you think this will be a rotation that Thibs would use, seeing that Thibs really hasn't shown too much creativity? Because he's had opportunities to play those two out there on the court together. But I think he really fears as to what type of rim protection we'll have with those two as a duo.
I'm with you. But you bring this up. It's a matchup thing. I think if the matchup lends itself well, it's the way the NBA is going, having a small ball type of environment. So, and it's a way of getting Obi more minutes. Like we said about Obi, that whether on weak side or something, for a guy that jumps like he does, I wish he was much more of a shot blocker, or somebody would think twice about getting into the lane, because this guy's going to come from nowhere and block my shot. So that's areas that we want to see for Obi. But we were just kind of trying to give the SV Nation a different flavor possibility of saying, hey, how do we get Obi more minutes? How do we show more flexibility in the way the NBA is going with small ball 5? And Randall played a lot of his second season in LA, oddly enough, was 55% at the 5, 45% at the 4. So it's something that he's done before. He played a little of that in New Orleans. So we, depending on the matchup, like Keith said, I don't know. Obviously, I don't think Thibs would do this night in, night out. But I think if he thought that there was an element of it, stretching the floor and stuff like that there's not a 5 that could cover Randall on the perimeter and other areas. But like you said, on the other end of the floor, we could get lit up maybe from a lack of rim protection.
Yeah, at this point, with the way Julius Randle is shredded, they might throw him out there at the 3 if they really want to be progressive. He might see some minutes at the 3 and then Obi at the 4. That could be a wrinkle they throw at us, but we would have to see how Randle looks out there trying to guard other players on the perimeter, because I think that might be the next area of concern. Is Julius Randle going to be quick enough to stay in front of some of these quicker wings out there on the court? So that's something that we may see. I'm waiting to see what some of the photos look like from training camp, because we normally see certain players in different colored jerseys, and that can give us an idea or a better understanding of what rotations Thibs is tinkering with. And for the most part, the rotations don't change much. But hopefully this time, with the amount of depth that we have on this team, Thibs, if he's going to give everybody a clear slate, then there should be a whole bunch of mixing and matching with some of these guys. Because I think a lot of these guys can play well with a plethora of players on this team. It's not like where, you look at certain guys and you say, all right, he's a better fit playing out there with these 4 guys. You can mix and match anybody in that rotation, and you can dial up a pretty decent offense that I think can make other teams, be fearful of. So it's all going to come down to the creativity of, and we say Thibs has to be more creative, but I think it's the coaching staff in general. Everybody from the head coach, associate head coach, to the people that sit behind the bench. Everybody should be collaborating on trying to make this offense a lot more creative and trying to get the most out of some of these young guys, because we have players like Quick that can play multiple positions and do a lot of things out there on the court. RJ, he can be a scorer. He can be a playmaker. You have Grimes as well. He showcased some of that in Summer League with that second unit. So there should be certain plays dialed up, whether it even be, having Grimes or Fournier come around screens and things like that. There should be a lot of mixing and matching with the rotations and a lot of creativity with this offense, because I think if you look at the players and their skill sets, we have a lot of guys that can hurt teams in a multitude of ways.
I'm with you. The only thing that scares me is we just talked about there's not enough minutes to go around with IQ, Grimes, Evan, and Cam. Now, if you throw Randall and Obi into the talks, possibly playing the 3, that makes it even worse. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, but like you said, it's a matchup league, man. So depending on who's playing, what the other team's doing, you got to do what you think is going to do, put the players on the floor that you think you can get us the W.
Yep. So if you haven't voted already, we're going to go through all 3 of the rotations just to give you a refresher. So we have in number 1, we have the starting 5 of Brunson, Grimes, RJ, Randall, and Mitch. That's the main takeaway from this. You have D Rose backing up Jalen, Quick backing up Grimes, Evan and Cam backing up RJ, and then Obi backing up Randall, and iHeart backing up Mitch. Now, if you go to number 2, you have Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Cam, Randall, and Mitch as your starting 5, with IQ, Grimes, IQ coming off the bench with some minutes for D Rose, and then you have Grimes coming off the bench for RJ and splitting some backup minutes at the 2 with Quick. And the same thing with Cam at the 3. You have RJ and Evan splitting minutes to back up Cam, and the center position for the most part stays the same. Or do you go with number 3? You've got the same starting 5, but now no minutes for D Rose, of course, no minutes for Kills, Farron, or Sims, and you have RJ getting some minutes at the 3 to spell Cam along with Evan, and you still see Quick only getting about 16 minutes. And then with number 4, you've got the same starting lineup. This time you're seeing a little bit more minutes for Grimes. Obi is now getting more minutes at the 4, and we're seeing some small ball being implemented. So let us know what your decision is, and we'll close the poll after about 5 minutes or so and see exactly what your thoughts are. So also let us know your comments in the chat. We'll discuss them before we wrap up.
Yeah, and if you have any variations that you think of that could make everyone happy, or try to make everyone happy, and make us the most dangerous team possible. Are you leaning toward anyone personally, Keys? I'm sorry. I'll take your hit, and we'll talk after.
I'm sorry. I'm good. I like 2.
Yeah, 2 looks good.
3 might be the one that sold me. You kind of sold me on 3 when you started discussing it. More minutes for Grimes.
It's basically about the future. It's like we love Rose, and like Parrish brought up, he's a good guy to have there in case anything happens. But it's basically the passing of the torch that I'm glad you're at your rookie rate, but these are really significant minutes for their development. And even so, IQ's still only getting 16.
Yeah. But, you can also even reduce Grimes, have Grimes play 20 minutes and have Quick play 20 minutes. And then you can, those additional minutes for Quick, just have him play behind Grimes at the 2.
Yeah, I know, but I went through this as the crazy man. Without Rose playing, IQ can't pass to himself. So if Jalen's only going to be at 32 minutes, who's IQ going to pass? If IQ's at the shooting guard, then Jalen's going to have to play more. Because the way I looked at it is, if Jalen plays 32 minutes, you want every one of those minutes to be for, RJ at 24, even at the 8, you want Jalen on the floor for RJ to be the best he can be. So, but if we just stayed at the shooting, so you have 24 minutes for RJ, that's 8 left for Jalen. So that means, to hit the 32. So who's he going to do those? So if he does 8 minutes for Grimes, then he has 16 minutes left, and then that's 16 minutes is what we have for IQ there. So it was a math thing, that it was a lot of thought behind the scenes going into this, trying to juggle, if we could do it, but then D Rose has to play, because then otherwise IQ can't play with himself. But
I wouldn't mind staggering. I wouldn't mind having RJ on the court when Jalen Brunson's not on the court, because I think with Jalen Brunson on the court, you could allow RJ Barrett to have the ball a little bit more in his hands and run the show as the playmaker, especially if he's out there with Quick, because then Quick will give him some similar floor spacing, and can also operate as an outlet for him if they start to trap him or anything like that. So I wouldn't say RJ has to be on the court with Jalen Brunson. I'd be cool with RJ out there on the court with Quick.
Yeah, for sure.
And if Grimes can continue to play like we saw in Summer League, where we can get better as a playmaker, we might see Thibs throw Grimes out there for moments, to throw a big lineup out there with Grimes, RJ, Cam, Randall, and either Mitch or iHeart. I think that would be an interesting rotation or interesting look for opposing teams.
Yeah, after Burks last year, I think you're right. You're onto something. Anything's possible if we play Burks at the point guard. Hell, Grimes went to Kansas as a point guard. We saw, like you just said, some of those beautiful pocket passes and no look passes in summer. So anything's possible, man. He just has to work on that handle.
Yep, I was just about to say that. Definitely has to tighten up that dribble.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna close the poll. See what everybody says.
Yep. Hey, folks, we have 166 people in the chat. We have 88 likes. We're 12 away from hitting that 100 metric. So please, it takes a half a second. If you haven't, please hit that like. We appreciate it so much. If you have subscribed, thank you so much. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Please hit that all reminder bell so you don't miss out on any of the wonderful content from Sports 5 TV. As Keith said, he put out some shorts over the last few days that were happening. Please check them out. Please share the link on your favorite social media platform. If you can't catch it live, shout out to the replay gang. We love your comments. We love chopping it up with you. And as always, shout out to the best mods on the planet. We appreciate all you do.
Thank you for that, Foxy. And I have the results for the poll. So the question was, which rotation should Thibs use, 1 through 4? So 45% went with the rotation number 1. I'll put that on screen right now. And we had 33% go with rotation number 2. And then we had 12% go with number 3. And then both last and least comes number 4 with 9%.
Well, thank you, man. That's eye-opening. That's basically saying, so long, Cam.
Yeah, pretty much. Everybody is team Grimes.
Let the door hit you on your ass out of here. Yeah, we love that insight. We love knowing what you're thinking.
Well, actually, technically, Team Cam would win because in 2, 3, and 4, Cam was the starter. So that would mean 55% of the chat would prefer Cam to start in one of those 3 lineups, and then 45% would prefer Grimes. So it's an interesting breakdown. Thank you guys for taking part in the poll. We really appreciate it. It gave us a lot of information and insight into what the New York Knicks fan base thinks about these starting lineups and rotations moving forward.
Yeah, we're glad you love the content. Hey, our friend Buzzer Beater asked, did we read his super chat? I thought so, but just to make sure.
A recent one?
It just says, hey, did you guys read my super chat? So we just want to be respectful. We greatly appreciate your generosity.
I know we didn't say one of his super chats when we logged off, but we came back and said it when we came on for our next stream.
Shows. I think he just said, I think he did one now, and or he did one earlier in our stream. And if you could just write it in what you said in the chat, and we'll repeat it, Buzzer Beater. But thanks, man. You're so cool. We appreciate you and everybody else, your generosity. It all goes back in us trying to make this the best, behind the scenes, all the equipment and the stuff to give you these, the videos and all the stuff. We're on a whole new infrastructure. Thanks to you guys.
Yep. Thank you. We really appreciate all the support. This live stream would not be happening if it weren't for you guys tuning in. I say it time and time again. I mean, I don't really like hearing myself speak like that to really come on here and talk to nobody. So the fact that you guys are receptive of the content and you give us your thoughts and opinions makes this all worth it. So I really appreciate all the support. And also thank you, Foxy, as well, for co-hosting these streams with me. You've been really a great help to the growth of the channel. So thank you.
Love you, man. You're my friend. Hey, folks, thank you. We have 106 likes. You heard our ask, and you came through once again. And, folks, again, another milestone this week because of you. We blew past the 1.3 million views milestone. And thank you. We can't tell you how much we appreciate that. I'm a real superstitious person. You already know I'm crazy, and 7's one of my lucky numbers. So do us a favor. We're 6 and change, a few away from 6.3 thousand subscribers. We're hoping, during this season we'll blow into the 7, my lucky number, but I'm sure it's other people's lucky numbers. So thank you so much for, please subscribe. Let us get to that 7,000 subscriber number. And again, thank you for letting us go past that 1.3 million views. Wow, that's spectacular.
Yep, we're at 107 likes. Thank you guys for all the support. Foxy, I got a question from you from Ace of Spade. He's asking us, Fox and Sports Vibes TV, would you do a Fournier buyout? I wouldn't do a Fournier buyout. I think he still has some value. He's a guy that can be a dynamic scorer at times, in spurts. You look at what he's doing over there in what is it called, Eurobasket. He's been killing. He's been looking like an elite scorer over there. So we just need to have him come here and give him a role where he can excel in. And I think he looks best coming off the bench where he's not going up against starters where they can target him and try to get easy forays into the basket. If he comes off the bench, then he's going up against players that aren't, as athletic for the most part, aren't as technical, and breaking him down off the dribble and getting past him. I think he'd have an easier job not only playing defense, but also an easier job scoring. So I think that would be the best way to kind of rehab some of his value and also to get the most for him. Because at the end of this season, he'll be an expiring deal. So I think it'll be even easier to move off from him. So I don't think we should go out there and try to buy him.
He has 2 years left. He still has a fully
but it's
a
an
year
option.
after. Next year is not an option. The year after next year is the option.
Okay. Yeah, so it'll be an expiring deal.
Oh, next year.
Yeah, at the end of this season, it'll be an expiring deal.
No, I thought.
Yeah, he has 3. He has 3 with an option. So at the end of this season, he would have 1 year with an option. So technically, it's an expiring deal because if they don't pick up the option,
capiche. Okay, cool. Yeah,
that's what I meant.
Yeah,
my fault.
Yeah, no. But on Fournier, hey folks, we shared with Jalen Brunson a couple of weeks ago that right to the left of the basket, he was elite, the top in the league. Evan Fournier had 2 spots where he was the best in the league last season, the best shooter from 2 spots on the court. So like he said, we saw last year dribble handoffs by Randall that were terrible. He did it so badly that he had to give the ball back to Randall. But if we did the proper screens for him, he's valuable. And like we said, and a couple of our fan, the people in the chat, SV Nation brought up, we got to watch the shooting on this team. And, there's a concern. So, it's something that we'll be looking at, and we'll find out real quick in the next week or so, because it's only a week or so for our first exhibition game to see. Quick shout out to Duras. I love you too, Duras.
Yeah, so I just pulled it up real quick. So it is an option, but it's a club option for 24-25, and it's at 19 mil. So this season, 22-23, he's making 18. Next season, 23-24, he's making 18.8, and then the team would have the option as to whether or not they would pay him for that 4th season. So I think he'll have a lot of trade value. So I wouldn't go ahead and try to buy him out. I think if we can wait another season, see if we can kind of rehab his value a little bit, I think we can get something decent for him.
Yeah, well, you saw Bogdanovich from Utah going to Detroit. He's a shooter. It's a same type of thing. So people are going to need shooting, and depending on that, so we'll see.
Let's see if we have anything going on in chat. New Yorker says, what if Jules becomes great again? Do we trade him then? I might be inclined to trade him, because at that point it's too much of a roller coaster. Because at that point, can I guarantee that he'll be, or can I put any bets that he'll be that level moving forward? Or will it continue to be up and down, up and down? Because if it is, then I'm going to want to sell high. So if he starts to kill and, teams are starting to make calls and we can get something decent for him, then maybe I pick up the phone and say, all right, let's pull the trigger on something.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a wing league. It's a lot easier to replace a 4 than anybody else, than other positions. So if he got his game this year and somebody came in with a really good offer to get him off their books, get him off our books. My only concern, and we've touched on this, is Obi. We know Obi is going to be freaking dynamite on offense. Defense, man. That he's going to have to show this year that. We know that Randall's in a whole nother class and rebounding than Obi. But, he's a better defensive player at this point than Obi. Obi has to show that we can get rid of Randall on the defensive side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But my thing is, we have players, I think, on this squad that can help Obi defensively, even if he isn't, let's say if he's slightly below average as a defender. I think you still have players on this roster that you can put out there with him to kind of overcome some of those deficiencies. We've mentioned Mitch and Ihart are great at defending the rim. You look at a guy like Cam who has all the measurables. He has great instincts, pretty solid. He makes some bad decisions, but defensively, I think he has some solid IQ. He plays the passing lanes well. He's good at picking pockets. So if you look at guys that are good, that can help out rotating over, then you can live with Obi being, somewhat below average defensively. But what he can't be is abysmal. If he's abysmal defensively, then at that point, you really can't have him out there as a liability. But if he can be serviceable as a defender, I think he does enough offensively without needing the ball in his hands to warrant, a decent amount of minutes.
Yeah, I hope he was doing a lot of squats and stuff. His biggest issue is he just doesn't have the base. The base, like you just said, man, to hold that spot or keep somebody. So we'll see. It's important. It's a shame we had to trade the draft pick in order to get Jalen Brunson, but I keep saying, man, I wish we drafted Terry Eason. Then it'd be an issue that we wouldn't have. We'd have a rebounding guy, a defensive guy that, if Thibs is not in Thibs, if Randall's gone, then we'd have somebody for the future. But you know what? It's a hell of a draft. I've been watching crazy amounts of tape on the kids already. Basketball is only 40 some odd days, college basketball. And if we do, there's some fours out there that are electric in this draft coming up this year. So if Obi's our guy of the future, if we do get rid of Randall, I definitely think we can get somebody on our team, another power forward on our team in the draft that's going to be happening. That's going to be uber athletic, and block shots, be a tenacious defender, and go from there.
Yeah. Big Oso says, can iHeart play the 4? I think he can play the 4, but I went on Basketball Reference and I haven't seen him play any minutes at the 4 per their stats. But I think he's mobile enough to play the 4. He can shoot the 3. I mean, I know we say it's a small sample size, but the fact that opposing teams look at him as a guy that can knock down the 3, I think is going to garner, the attention of defenders and help with that floor spacing. So I think he can be someone that can play the 4. We just haven't seen it per Basketball Reference.
Yeah, somebody who I'd like to see playing the 4 is Cam.
Yeah, that's who I really want to see at the 4. Cam, see what he can do.
He's big, bro. He's right at the size of he's a 6'8", 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan, 7-foot plus wingspan. He's in the neighborhood of Obi already, man. So I wouldn't mind seeing Cam playing some 4 minutes. But if Obi can't get any minutes with Randall here, there's no sense to even discuss having Cam at the 4.
Facts. But we'll leave it there. I think we had a solid stream. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate the support. We'll be back again next Sunday, same time, right, Foxy?
Where's the place to be?
Sports Vibes TV. You already know.
And
we'll have a lot more to discuss too, because it'll be after media day. Training camp should have started. We'll have more information on how this team and the rotations are going to be looking like. So it should be an interesting stream. So make sure you guys are tuned in next Sunday at 6:15.
Yeah, and next week we are when we have the show next Sunday, 6:15, like you said, we're only 2 days away from our first exhibition game. So it's getting there. Can't wait, man, to see our boys on the floor and the impact and everything we're saying. But thank you so much. We're really looking forward to going through, having another journey through this season with you, SV Nation. We love you. If we haven't told you already and you don't know, it's sincere. We just really, and you can tell in all our comments and answering them on the replay and everything else. We appreciate you so much.
Yep. Thank you for that, Foxy. Also, really appreciate the fact that you guys got us over that 100 threshold. We're at 111 likes for the stream. Can't tell you guys how much we appreciate all the support. And, the support we get from you guys is what brings us back every Sunday at 6:15. So once again, I'm Keith, host of Sports Vibes TV, joined as always by my co-host Stephen Fox, and we're out.
Love you.